Cool. Okay, so welcome to the Lounge Academics podcast. As usual, it's your boy KJ.
And I'm Yaz.
Of course you're Yaz. All right, so we're here, man. We have a brilliant guest. This guy is amazing. He's a model, 6'3". Like, he's slightly taller than me still, right? We have Shaun Flores in the building.
How are you guys? Good, good.
Yeah, bro. Good to see you.
Yes,
Thank
man.
you for coming down
Definitely.
and stuff. We know, right, there's a lot of things that you're involved in, man. Yeah, but there's a lot of things that you're involved in at the moment. And we know, obviously, one of the many interests that you have is around the notion around masculinity.
Definitely.
Right? And exploring what this means, yeah? So, we know that you've got a blog.
Yeah.
We know that you're very active in that in terms of your writing. We also know that you're very much engaged in advocating as well.
Definitely.
On behalf of, like, young fathers in particular, because you're a dad as well.
Definitely.
But I think we're going to get into that. But first, let's start at the beginning and kind of think about, you know, what does it mean to be like a man? What does this thing masculinity mean, though? Because I know I do. I know where you're coming from when you say it, but for the benefit of those watching and listening.
I think based on our current political climate and our cultural climate, I think being a man is being emotionally literate, culturally responsible for your kids, responsible for the future that you have. And I think it's being present above all things, and I think it's learning to deal with things in a more conducive manner than we have, because I think a lot of us black men were guilty to falling into materialism, women.
Yeah.
And I think when you, even if just as an example, it's probably really hard hitting, but the penis is the most overused organ we have in our body that we use. We use it relentlessly for masturbation, porn, we use it with sex. So I think it's being emotionally responsible, culturally responsible, emotionally literate, and being present for your kids, for your families, and for everyone else around you. I think that's what for me. That's what I define being a man. But I think going back in time, being a man was nothing more than just being able to provide. That's all it was. And I think masculinity has evolved a lot since then. You know, feminism has given women the freedom to, now they don't need a man to provide. So men are losing their place in a lot of essences. But yeah, I think for me currently,
okay,
that's
currently
what being a man is.
And a lot of your blogs, I know you kind of, if you would allow me to say, I think there's a struggle. Right, and I think it's a beautiful struggle, because what I often see through your written blogs, is that you are very open and transparent about navigating certain spaces and these kind of tensions and difficulties.
Definitely.
So, what do you think, given at the moment this kind of cultural political climate, what do you think are some of the tensions for men right now, like in terms of and particularly as a black man as well, looking at?
That's a good question, because I write for a network called the Common Sense Network, and we write things from two perspectives. So I don't know if you ever feel like in the cultural, political climate, we live in the guy who owns it, Mike, says called echo chambers, where people only listen to things that are their own voice, only listen to things that align with their own views, only listen to things that they agree with. And I think, so the network, as a journalist there, I write things from two sides of the coin. And I think when I think about black men, I think we're struggling to find purpose in a world where men have almost lost their purpose. And you look at people like Jordan Peterson, who people class as controversial, and he says something, just men need so little encouragement to become men or to find themselves. We're leaving men behind, and we're demonizing masculinity as a whole generalized broad concept as toxic, and not everything about masculinity is toxic. And I think for me personally, my own struggle, I think, is being the father I want to be for the child that I have. Because my dad died when I was younger. And dealing with the mother to my child who doesn't understand what it is to have a father figure in her life. Because her dad has 11 kids and she's the last of 3. So I think she doesn't understand that. So it's navigating, I don't like to use this word, but her cultural incompetence when it comes to understanding the struggles of a young black man, and having a child that's of the light. He's even lighter than me, but she somehow thinks he's mixed race, which I think is ironic because she's black herself.
Wow. So I mean, I know you're going into the space of kind of talking about, like, obviously your ex-partners or the mother of your child's kind of perception and views of what that means to be a man and what that means for her. And I think you're pointing out an obvious fact. I think we are in a society where women are growing up without fathers, and men as well,
Definitely.
equally, and that has an impact. Yeah. Thinking about your dad, because you said obviously your dad passed when you were very young. How did you, I guess, that journey of becoming a man, right? Going through from boyhood through adolescence to becoming a man.
Definitely.
What sense did you make of that without having your father there?
So my dad died when I was 6 years old, and I don't remember anything about him. So I'm trying to go back to therapy and counselling for that.
Okay.
And
okay.
I remember when he died. So he died on Christmas Day, as I said. I think I never consciously thought about what it was to not have a father. And I think it's because I grew up in quite, I guess some people would say Earlsfield is quite middle class, but then I went to a state school. I've always gone to a state, but people assume I'm upper class because of the way I speak. It's very interesting. To me, I never really thought about what was it to be a man. But I remember my uncle, someone I class as my uncle, only to find out, I think, that my mum was somewhat with him, I think. Interesting, right? But I remember we used to play fight, and I always used to only hang around with females. And I remember he said to me, am I gay? Because I always wanted to just hang around with females.
This is your dad, yeah?
This one wasn't my dad. This was someone who was... He wasn't an uncle, but... You know, in the community, you class someone as an uncle when they don't have a designated title.
Yeah.
And when I sat back and I thought about that, I thought that was interesting. And I grew up and around, I think it was around 11, 12, I started watching porn. Didn't really think about whether that was what a man does per se. I honestly have never really thought about what it was to be a man, I think, until 16, 17, when I wrote an article on what it was to be a man. And what I found, something that was almost like an epiphany for me, was... lions don't do anything. It's the lioness who hunt. Lions, they just look good. So you know when women are like, I want a lion, so you want a man who does nothing effectively. That's effectively what you want without realizing it. So I think that really changed my outlook on things, and I think having a child myself, I'm still discovering what it is to be a man for him. So like today, we caught a pigeon, you know, it was so funny. And people look at us all the time, and I think some people probably assume I'm his brother of some sort. And until he says, daddy, daddy. And I think, again, that you're discovering what it is to be a man. And I think it's, as I said, it's always just about being emotionally literate. With him, you know, I tried to have an open conversation. He's only 2, he's probably not going to understand, but I want him to get into those habits with me, you know, to not be scared of everything that comes his way. And I think even if I had a daughter, I'll try and raise my daughter to be like that, irrespective. But so it's a really good question, actually. I don't think I've ever consciously thought about it, actually, until I was about 16, 17. Yeah, honestly. And then going in relationships. You know, as I said, I've never wanted for anything female attention-wise. It just, I don't know. It's actually a really good question. I think I always assumed a man had to pay for a date. I always assumed men had to do this and a man had to do that. So you're just running along cultural guidelines almost. You know, if that makes sense. So,
But this is the thing. I think none of us do. I don't think we ever stop to think about what it means. And I don't think we necessarily have to. But yet we start to reenact or play out certain things that are projected, that influences our kind of personal view.
Definitely.
From the world view. So I think for me, it's about becoming more cognizant, being more aware of these things that kind of influence the decisions that we make and why we see ourselves to be breadwinners or whatever that is. Do you know what I mean? Or to be more feminine, or because I remember I read in your blog, we were talking about the new I can't remember, what is it? The new male that goes out shopping. I saw an earlier blog. Metrosexual. That's it.
So some people said that was David Beckham. Started that trend. You know, men that take care of themselves, men that groom themselves. But us men are considered, we're supposed to be gritty, dirty, and so on and so on. You know, unkempt, I guess is a better word.
So how does that? I mean, where you're making sense of all this stuff with the fact that you're also a model, right? So it's interesting because it represents somewhat of a bit of a there could be a bit of a dichotomy in that, right? In the sense that you're a model, and there's these perceptions of what it means to be manly or to look a certain way. You know, you need to be a certain height. Like, you know, I just missed it because I'm just shy of 6'4". Do you understand? But still, there's certain perceptions. Do you get what I'm saying? Of what it means to be a man and how that looks. So how do you, I guess, for you, straddling these different areas of being an advocate for men, as well as having to almost play or portray a certain role through the glam modeling aspect of things. How do you navigate those spaces?
It's a very good question, actually. I think I don't ever think about being a man too much in respect to being a model. I think I just go there, do my job more so than anything else.
Okay.
But I think going back to like David Beckham's kind of thing, I don't take care of myself the way I should. I need to take care of myself a lot better, because about a year ago I was getting more jobs, and I think everything's gone a bit stagnant at the moment because I'm not taking care of myself the way I should.
Modeling jobs, yeah?
Yeah, modeling jobs. But I get a lot of interest. But I think, how do I navigate that? I think I stay true to myself, and I think because I know who I am and I know the chinks in my own armor, no one else can tell me any different. Apart from, I'd listen to people, and I don't think there's any harm in that, and I'll always go away and I'll reflect. But I think navigating for me is just going out and just knowing who I am and knowing what it is that I have. And I think being competent enough to know who I am, and I think it's also to be able to defend myself when I have certain questions thrown at me. So I think one of the famous questions I was thrown at me is, am I gay? Am I bisexual? I get that relentlessly all the time. I have a lot of gay men giving me attention because they automatically assume I'm gay. I think that's very interesting.
But where does that come from? Like, just out of interest, because I know I've seen your gram,
yeah.
Like, and there was an image. I remember one image that was striking for me. Is obviously you were like modeling, and I think you were wearing boxing gloves, but it seemed like you was wearing what seemed to be like, it looked like a dress.
It was a wedding dress.
It was a wedding dress.
Yeah.
I remember you had on boxing gloves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that clearly. Yeah. And I was like, right, this is interesting. I was like, I like this guy because this guy plays. Mm-hmm. You understand? In terms of straddling and all that, right? You kind of, you're not. I didn't really see it as one of reflecting your sexuality. I saw this is a man that isn't frightened to push the boundaries or to be able to take, push the extent to your, showing your creativity and challenging that. So for me, that's what I kind of saw. But I just wondered, where would that come from? This sense of questioning your sexuality or thinking that you may be gay or bisexual. Where does that come from?
I think a lot of it's from my porn addiction. I never escalated to anything really bad, if you want me to be really open and honest with you. But I think I could see a small increase happening over time. And I think I had to stop myself almost in the bud, because with porn, it's your dopamine levels start to get desensitized.
Yeah.
And I think I was getting questions, guys thrown at me, and I remember I'd go to shoots, and guys, I felt like they were a little bit too inviting of themselves. I think they almost assumed that they could have almost their way with me, and I'm not interested in men, but I still question myself a lot of the times, if you want me to be very open and honest with you.
Yeah.
Simply because I think for me, the breaking point was honestly when there was I'm not afraid to expose whoever it is. I'm not going to say names.
Yeah.
One of the directors at an agency, so we did a shoot, and some of the things he was saying was a little bit strange, I guess is the best way to put it. So I have a really curved back. So what it means is that my bum looks a lot bigger than it is. And what it is, when women in carnivores, when girls have a big butt, it's just hypolordosis. That's what it is. It's just you have a curvature of the spine. And I learned that, but that's just like a random fact. And he was saying things to me like, oh, I'll be your friend, I'll do this. And I was just like, what kind of message am I pushing out there for people to think that? And I had people asking me, am I bisexual? Again, the whole sexuality question was when I walked in the dress, I never saw it like that. I felt like I was internalizing what other people's projections were off me.
I heard that.
Makes sense. You know what I mean? So like certain questions people would ask me, like, what's your sexuality? I'm like, I believe I'm heterosexual. I've never thought about it. When I was young in the playground, I just knew I liked women. Even now, I look at a woman and I'm just like, yeah, you look great. But now I'm thinking, am I supposed to be like that? Because I think it's, as I said, it's other people's projections that are generally making me think. And I remember I spoke to a bisexual guy, a friend of mine. And he struggled to come out in the community. So we grew up Seventh-day Adventist. And he said to me that he thinks what's happening is there's a heterosexual expectation of me, plus the modeling world where people think I'm gay. So it's conflating, and it's just in my mind is just going crazy. And I think, again, the anxiety from that, the anxiety is not from that. The anxiety is actually from not having a relationship with my son that I want. So I think everything is a roll-on. It's a snowball effect. So I think that's why I want counselling and therapy, and to deal with. I haven't watched porn for maybe around 5 months, 3 months, 4 months now.
Okay.
Just staying away from that has been one of the best decisions I ever made, actually, more than anything else. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone.
And why would you say that is? Why is that the best decision? Like, I know that's worked for you, but why would you not recommend?
Porn distorts your mind, and I think more so than anything, it gives you a plethora of options at a click. So, you know, once upon a time ago, when us men wanted to have sex with someone, we had to go out into the world and find it. Now you can find Ebeline, Latina, white, MILF, trans. You can find anything online, and that plays with a man's senses. And there's tests that show with rats. So what they do is how men naturally are, and most people don't like to admit how men naturally are. We're not naturally monogamous. We're naturally more polygamous than anything else. And women are naturally polygamous as well. But the only issue is women want more security than men. Men, we just want to go out and explore. So what would happen? They'll put the male rat in a cage, and there was a female, and this rat would just go at the female. For as long as he could, just having sex. And eventually what was funny with the female rat was the male rat would just be chilling. That's when the female's onto him. The female's like, now I want your love and I want your attention. And they took the female rat out, put a new female rat, and he just repeated the exact same thing.
With the new female
rat.
rat.
He just repeated the exact same thing. And I think men biologically, we are a bit more animalistic. You know, our tendencies are a little bit more divorced from morality. You know, we're almost built to spread our seed. I think a man can impregnate nearly half the world in a very short matter of time. So women are lumbered with the burden of childbirth, and some people would say that's biologically sexist, right? And some radical feminists want to remove women from having the burden of childbirth by kids being born outside of the womb. So like IVF has been a revolution. There's womb transplants that are happening now, that are coming up in Brazil. So there's a lot of different things. But I think that's really going off topic. But porn has been, I would say porn in some parts has really destroyed some of the fabrics of my life. I think over-sexualizing women, not being able to look at a woman and think, I don't need to actually have sex, per se. Feeling the need, and I think I cheated. I got an STI, chlamydia. I had friends who got gonorrhea. I'm just being very open and real with it, you know. And that made me super paranoid. It doesn't help. You know, you think about it. I don't even last long. But I'm more of a rounds man, if you want me to be more open and honest with you. And, you know, now...
being totally open.
It's good.
You know what it is? It's now...
100.
Now it's simple. Now it's, I'm aroused for maybe 20 minutes, but I might not even last 20 minutes. I'm there busting my nut for 5-10 minutes, and that's it, and I'm out. I'm cold. And I might give another round later on, but... That for me is a good enough talk.
That's common.
But do you know what it's like? It's like I think what porn is
interesting.
I think what porn is instant gratification.
It's
instant,
of course.
Straight away.
It's
straight away. And I think, as I said, there were opportunities when I didn't want sex, but I took it simply because I think that's the image that I was shown as reality. And I grew up in a culture. My mum doesn't talk to me about sex. My mum lost her virginity to my dad at 30 something.
But wait, Shaun, I want to check here. No, because this is heavy, right? I just want to check. So, like, from what you're saying, how many... Because I believe, right, you're being open, you're being very 100, And I respect that, and I like that. Do you think there are men, like, how many other men do you think could relate and share to this?
Many.
You understand?
Many.
Of course, many.
Some of my friends, we've sat down, all had conversation. One of my friends, he questioned sexuality because he started watching trans porn.
Right.
And, you know, for a long time, he said he just didn't know who he was. And I was like, I've never got to there. I've never watched gay. I've never watched trans. I think at most I've watched...
I hear you.
I think I started to escalate to things like anal or gangbang. And if we want to, again, be very open and honest. A lot of men can relate. A lot of men. I think, honestly, a lot of men can relate. Porn is detrimental. Porn, there's nothing positive about porn. And I think people who argue for porn's advocacy... I think there's something not right with them. Simply, I think people should have the freedom to have sex, to do what they want to do, but the consequences are dire. The effects are constantly shown on the brain. There's something about porn which humans can't get away from. Like, I'm sure, you know, like porn or sex is a huge topic. So imagine going and watching it. And some things, I think in the black community, the porn that we watch is accelerated by the intergenerational trauma of slavery as well. I'm not going to say there's things that women and men don't like. I think men were naturally quite dominant. Women like to be dominated. But I think porn has only exacerbated that.
And
It's made it worse. And I think men like I've never slept with a white woman. I've never been interested in a white woman. But a lot of boys I know, they only want to be with white women, and it's almost like they're replaying that dichotomy between the slave and the master. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And I feel like they're, again, reenacting things they've seen in porn, things that have culturally and racially and sociologically been brought back down through time. And that is in porn. Like, interracial is massive in porn.
Yeah.
Massive. But a lot of my friends can relate. A lot of us have watched porn. Like, me and my friends, we were talking about, I've wanked like 22 times in one day before.
Wow.
And I've had another friend who has. And we're exhausted, we're fried. Like, as a man, sometimes you'll lose it. But again, no one understands. You lose all your nutrients when you're masturbating. You lose it all. Yeah. And my friends and I, we're laughing because one of our friends, he's so tired. And we're like, you wanked again, didn't you? We just know what it is.
But I've got to be honest, yeah. That my camera people are laughing.
From masculinity to it's still
no, but it's a part. I think
it's all a part of it.
It's all a part of it.
The
thing is, for me, what you're talking about is something that I think a lot of men may think, but don't.
They shy away from talking.
I speak for myself. I've never, in terms of that level of detail and how do you?
24.
24, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So I know them times they're 24. I wasn't having those conversations necessarily, but it was all around the grandiose of competing about what needs to be done. There were conversations around sexual exploits and stuff, and what you were doing.
Conquest.
And conquest and all of that. Thank you. But you know what? Not in such detail to kind of say this is the impact.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying? And you're speaking to the impact of that.
I think it destroys your soul after a while. I honestly could say it destroys your soul. You have sex for 5-10 minutes. You maybe have a couple of rounds. And and sometimes I'd look at the female and just be a bit like, is this all that there is? I have so much more, and I think I've gone actually against the way I was raised. I was raised in quite a matrilineal family. When my dad died, my aunties all really took care of me, and my mum took care of me. And it's unbecoming of the man that I want to be. Yeah. So if the child that I have, I want him to do better. If he makes those mistakes, he makes those mistakes. But he can never say he didn't have an open dialogue with his father. And I'll be very open and honest with him about how he came into the world. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But sorry, go on. Yeah, go on.
But as you was talking about, you had your role models. Did you have any male role models growing up? I mean, your father passed away at 6, so how would you define what a father is? Is it more to do with what you feel that you needed in a father?
I think I want to give him everything that I longed for.
Yeah, okay.
And I think, when I think about even today, just watching him laugh, watching him smile, it makes me happy, and I think I just want that child to have the best in this world. I really do, as best as I can. And I think when I think about being a father, again, who's my role models? Trevor McDonald was, because I wanted to be a journalist. He's from Trinidad. Nelson Mandela, Malcolm X, all those people that grew up, I'd say those were role models, but I don't think I honestly had any immediate role models that I could be like, I want to be like you. Does that make sense? I think I wanted to be myself. I think that's the best way to put it. I wanted to be myself. Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, would you make hearing this? I mean, I'm
hearing it and I'm thinking, apart from obviously what you see in TV in the world, it's hard to define masculinity. How do you find
it's really hard.
Do you get what I mean? Apart from going back to saying that men was deemed to just be the providers and to work hard. So,
but I guess really what I wanted to speak more, because this is gold, because for me, to have even my cameraman's on it, and I wanted to kind of draw you in to kind of, my man's dropping some bars that I think as a woman, I don't know, I just would like to know what the female voice would make, do you know what I mean, of what's being heard and what's being said around pornography, because I'm thinking about this in the context of Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, we now R. Kelly, which is proper.
Boy,
do you get what I'm saying?
Trust me.
So from what you're projecting, because I'm seeing some stuff that's been I'm gonna take it there in terms of what's going out about R. Kelly. Me, in my own opinion, I feel alright, what he's done is wrong, if the guy is guilty of whatever he's done, then right, that's wrong.
Definitely.
Underage, definitely. But there seems to me a different handling of his case.
There is.
Right, there's clearly a different approach to say Harvey Weinstein at the moment. No, I'm not hearing of anything. I'm actually hearing people dropping cases against the man, and it looks like he's gonna get off scotch-free, in my opinion, when there's blatantly recorded evidence. Yeah, but like in line with what you were saying in terms of like, you know, black men and how men feel they got to live up to this hype, the conquest, this stuff that's ingrained from slavery. Do you know what I mean? This breeding, all of that comes into play. Yeah, right. Mandingo and all this business. No, it's real talk. True. Like we're keeping it real. Yeah, and all this stuff. We have to, man.
But I think again with the Mandingo tribe, I think it was the European colonizers when they came to the land, they saw these men were superiorly well endowed, and they cut their penises off. Yeah. That was the first thing that they did, because everyone knows that a big penis is almost a sign of virility.
Wow.
But then I wondered, in terms of when we look at this connection to R. Kelly now and this notion, because the thing that I got an issue with, right, and I was having a conversation with a colleague about this, and she went nuts on me, but I don't care. She knows who she is.
Lord have mercy.
She went nuts, right? But for me, I believe at the time, because I remember, you know, all them like, I don't see nothing wrong. You understand?
Yeah.
And all of that.
And do you remember he made a song called I Admit?
Right, exactly. And this was a culture.
Yeah,
at the time. This was the norm. Like in them 90s there, that was the norm, right? So people are arguing with me, saying to me, yeah, but you know what, it wasn't, you can't say women were complicit in it.
Women were complicit.
They were.
Irrespective of your age, you're complicit.
They were complicit. Definitely.
And that's my view. Yeah, that's my view. I mean, I don't know, like what you think, but I feel that they were. Some people will argue. A lot of women would be telling me or arguing that actually they're other than being complicit, they were groomed or were victims.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get that comes in because you could argue underage girls under 16, you're a child, you're a minor, you're not consenting. Yeah. There's a legal
but then
aspects
it doesn't
of all
make
that.
sense. How can you have criminal responsibility at 10?
Exactly.
Makes no sense.
Exactly. Because I remember girls climbing over the walls to go and date older men. I'm not saying
standard.
I'm not saying it's right, but at the same time, they willingly went there. Can we say okay about maturity and stuff? Were they mature enough? Maybe not. Maybe they look back and think, well, I didn't. But there's many that thought it was a good thing. Again, the men have got money. They can provide for them. The younger boys don't have the cars and stuff.
Do you know what I think with R. Kelly? We don't take into account R. Kelly was raped by his sister.
Yeah.
No one talks
so
about
he's a victim himself.
I'm not defending R. Kelly. Not at all.
Yeah.
But he's also a victim, and yet some people argue not every victim goes on to perpetrate. Some do, though. However, and I think what we've seen is a dethroning of black men more so than anything else. R. Kelly's a demigod. His music, you know, like in the songs, he said, "How many babies have you made off?" I don't support. I like R. Kelly's music. I don't like what he stands for. However, you know, and I think some people say you can't separate art from who they are, and you know what? I understand that argument, but again, you can't. I think what it is, you've got to live and let live. You know, if you want to listen to R. Kelly's music, that's fine. Do you know what I mean? When I think about artists such as like when I look at like artists, drill artists, there's nothing positive about them. But people will defend their positivity to the core, to the death. I think R. Kelly needs to be punished, but I think he needs to be punished in the black community. I think.
What do you mean?
I think we should hold him to account, and we should hold him to trial more so than anything else. I think we need to have our own jurisdiction, our own system, our own court of law.
Okay, so what do you think should happen to R. Kelly? I mean, I know you're saying that we should. So what, if you had the right to, you know, punish him, how would you punish him? What do you think's needed?
Money's one thing, and I think he should pay for all of his alleged victims,
which I'm sure he's been doing over
therapy
the years.
And counselling. He should pay for that.
As a result of the trauma.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the one thing he should do. I think he should give up a lot of his money towards charities for women of sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse. That's a very good question. I think the royalties he's made off of a lot of his music, he should actually give away and give to charity. I think the best way to humble someone is by stripping them of everything that they have, but rebuilding in them a new character. I'm not saying R. Kelly can be like that. You know, we might just be pacifying who he really is and who he's always going to be. But personally,
I think he needs counselling.
No, he does.
I think
he
needs therapy.
He needs therapy and counselling.
I don't think jail is going to do anything. I think he actually needs help.
Because people, you know what it is? People in prison have probably done the exact same thing.
Exactly.
We know
People
like
in
in
government's
Jamaica, it's
done
an
the same
over-sexualized
thing.
culture.
Yeah.
Men are grooming girls from 11,
Yeah,
13, waiting for them to get ready.
But this is what I was going to talk about, because this is exactly what I was going to go into, because we're talking about R. Kelly, yeah? R. Kelly's one man, yeah? That in a way I think has come to be symbolic of a certain culture.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah? That's where I was going with this. So he's symbolic of a culture. He represents a certain era, a certain pace in time where it was cool to do certain things. We're now in the era of, the hashtag Me Too movement, the whole sexual exploitation of young girls and women, safeguarding girls and women. We're in that kind of space and era now. But it seems like we're catching up with crimes of old.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah? That's what I'm seeing that's happening. But at the same time, what I am seeing in that space is there is an attempt to reclaim kind of like, black masculinity. And what I mean by that is there's a whole wave of men talking about, what it means to be a father. I've been seeing, there's the whole campaign, Cephas Williams, 56 black men, where he looked at the hoodie and stereotypes.
And then you have dope black dads.
Dope black dads. We have so many. You've got father to father stuff, Courtney father, father figure.
Yeah.
There's so many different things that are happening. And I guess, what do you make of this reclaiming of black masculinity?
I think men, we are trying to be better. And I think we are trying to be a lot better than our parents were, our fathers were. We're trying to create a space where children can grow up and they grow up in as little trauma in their home.
Yeah.
If charity begins at home, and I think the whole progressive liberal argument is everything is society's fault. And I agree.
Yeah.
But I grew up in a home where, again, I didn't want for anything. All my decisions were my own. And I accept my reality. And I accept the decisions that I make, and I take accountability and responsibility for that.
Yeah.
And I think men, as I said, we're just trying to do better. And I think a lot of black women, they're so used to seeing their mum not have a man. They're so used to having to raise a child by themselves that when men are trying to do better and sincerely want to do better, they're giving them the toughest time imaginable.
You get criticised.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure, as a man yourself with a kid, sometimes you can do nothing right. The mother to my child and I, we don't get along. I can't begin to tell you, we do not get along.
Trust me, that's shared. But by many.
When I mean we don't get along, but I said to her, you're carrying on as if you have to raise this child alone, and you don't.
Yeah.
This is your choice and this is your decision. I accept the things that I did. I did things that were unbecoming of the man I would want my son to be.
Yeah.
I cheated on her. I gave her, an infection.
Yeah.
And then after that, I still had the balls and the honesty to say to her, I can't be the man you want me to be. I need to go away and get help.
Yeah.
I need to go away and get help. And she's still angry at me to this day.
Well,
Yeah.
Like, us women can get in our feelings sometimes, which is not right. I don't think it's right. I don't think that the child is the piggy in the middle. And I think
like
the
she
child
said all
is,
sorts of things, to the child, like, your dad, your dad's a deadbeat, your dad's
good.
this. And I said to her, he's 50% me.
Of course, but do you know what? Yeah, because this point around, I think there's a valid point that you're saying about obviously women that haven't got men or fathers in their lives. Yeah, I always say this. I know it may be a bit controversial, but I do feel that you got to be wary of women or if you're a guy out there you're dating, you got to be wary of a woman that has a skewed relationship of their father.
Fact.
Or of their men. That's
daddy issues.
If there's daddy I got to be honest, because that's going to play out in your relationship. That's or in your dynamic that you have. And I think I just wanted to give some time to that. Do you know what I'm saying? Because when Shaun started talking, I'm like, I'm with you on that. Do you know what I mean? And at the same time, this whole thing around being a man and navigating what that means. I think with what Shaun is saying, that's introspection though. You've been able to look within yourself and to explore some of that, which I think, I'll be honest, as a man, I think that's rare. I think that's a rare thing.
To be honest, I was forced because I got caught.
Yeah.
Like, I laugh about it, but if I didn't, I was sleeping with over 7 people at one time. If you want me to be open, I'm not proud of it. When I look back, it was horrible.
But wouldn't you say that's a part? I'm not saying not condoning cheating, but wouldn't you say there's a thing about being young and getting into serious relationships? You're exploring, innit? You're at the stage, especially for guys, you're at a stage, like you said, you like to explore, you like to experiment, you're getting to know yourself.
But I don't think I was ever that guy. I'll be honest with you, I was a lover, man. Like, I'm the kind of guy I'd want to be.
So you weren't the kind of guy that wanted to settle down then?
And that's why I'm saying I did things that were unbecoming of the house I was raised in. I'm a soft guy at heart, you know what I mean? And I think my first relationship, we had like a whirlwind romance, and we broke up, but I loved her to pieces.
Yeah.
You know, I got into other relationships, and I was still loyal, but I think as time went on, I was just like, what's the point anymore? I might as well just get my dick wet and cut.
Wow.
Or just, you know, balls deep but mind out almost, or heart out, if you want me to be very open and crude. And my honest advice to women, we're not ready to settle down young. Stop trying to force us to settle down.
Yeah, I agree.
We are not ready for it. We don't want it. How many times we've got to tell you? You know, some women have stuck around with me, and I've said to them, I don't want a relationship, Jesus Christ.
But they're waiting.
They're sitting there waiting. And I think, not even to be arrogant, some of them say, like, you know, your husband material. I'm like, I know, but I don't want to be your husband. I don't want to be anyone's husband right now. I don't know what more you want me to tell you. Obviously, I'm complicit because I still continue doing it because I know the power I have. I know the power I wield. But as I said, I did things that were unbecoming of the man who I truly was. As I said, you know, I'm the kind of guy, I took one ex to Trinidad with me. That went haywire, you know.
But how has that shifted to the now? So I know you're speaking about what I'm getting. There's a transition. Yeah, that was you in the past.
Yeah.
So who are you? Who would you say you are now? Then
Yeah.
who is this person now? And what would that offer be to other young men on the come up or coming through or having to navigate all of this stuff?
I think I'm a man who's still feels very guilty for the mistakes he's made. I've really broken some people's hearts.
Okay.
And I think I've left some people with a legacy of trauma that they probably can never. I'm not gonna say never, but it'll take them a while to get over. I've had a lot of people that have really loved me. I'm not gonna say I didn't care about them. I've cared and I've loved.
Yeah.
But probably maybe not to the extent that they have. And my advice to a lot of young men is don't have sex with someone who you wouldn't want to be.
Wow.
Why would you have sex with someone? Again, for what reason? You know, I said to my friends, I had one friend who went to the Philippines, he slept with 2 women, got gonorrhea.
Wow.
Another friend, gonorrhea.
Yeah.
And I had chlamydia, so I was quite lucky in the sense of, because gonorrhea apparently is really awful. Apparently it's a horrible thing to have. You know, and I looked at them and I said, you've seen me gone through these, like, why would you want to go through it? They're like, oh, but I need to experience it. I'm like, you don't. Like, you really don't. I'm at a stage where I avoid women almost. Honestly, I'm at that stage. I get attention and so on, but I'm honestly at a stage where I'm just like, leave me alone. Because I know I'm no good for you, Ran. Or I'm not bad, but I'm no good for you romantically in the way that you want me.
So does that speak to you? Because then there's a sense, yeah, and I'll call it out, right? You're obviously talking about we are weak beings as men, especially
we are
to the flesh.
susceptible.
We're susceptible to that, yeah. But to some extent also thinking about in line with the whole R. Kelly, Harvey Weinstein thing, there's a predatory element to this
There
as
is,
well. Yeah. And
Men were hunters.
And this is what I wanted to speak to. So being aware, when you're saying that you avoid kind of women, not to suggest that women are at risk or in danger, but there is obviously if a woman pushes and is interested.
Nah, man, my mind doesn't let me anymore.
Okay.
You don't even get to that stage where she can get that close.
Well, I have, and I've
Okay.
gone like, nah, I can't do this.
You can't, straight.
I'm like, nah, because again, the whole chlamydia in the back of my head, I'm like, if you've got something, no thanks. Like the anxiety is awful. Picking up, running to the clinic thinking, oh shit, have I got something? But I haven't had sex.
So that's as a result of
So
being
you're
stung.
fair.
Exactly,
Yeah.
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 And if you're a fool gets stung, how many times do I have to get stung to learn my lesson?
Yeah.
Like I've considered a
Sounds like
vasectomy.
just laughing, do you
Like
know?
I've
But-
considered a vasectomy. Let me just tie my tubes up quick. If that's what a vasectomy, if I'm correct.
Wow.
I've
wow.
considered to be like, Shaun, you don't need this, man. Remove yourself from your animalistic instincts.
Wow. Sounds like that rapper.
Who? What rapper was
The
it?
guy who cut his penis
Yeah, he
off.
cut his penis
And he
off.
killed
Oh,
himself.
from Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The guy that,
Well,
he
he's
wasn't
part
a part. He
affiliated
was in.
with
He was
Wu-Tang.
affiliated.
Well, to be honest,
with Wu-Tang.
I understood his mentality.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
brother, I can't understand where you're coming from. Because I'm sure the roast is real sometimes,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just want to just get your
Yeah.
thing wet up for no
Wow.
reason at all. For none. And then always in the back of my mind, when I start getting into that space, I'm like, nah, don't do it, Shaun. It's
But
not worth it.
how does that, like, for me, you're having this conversation, I see there's a woman amongst us, yeah? How does that feel having that conversation? I mean, I don't know what you make of this, but I'm wondering, because you're speaking very candidly,
Which is
very...
good.
Well,
Transparency. Because the thing is, you're speaking what many men probably are going through that don't say it. And in regards to you saying that you feel a bit guilty because a lot of people that you hurt,
I feel more than guilty.
But you said that in the past you actually said to them, look, I don't want you, I don't see as wifey material. And some people you didn't.
I've seen all of them as wifey material. None of them are bad women.
Okay, no.
None of them at all.
But
so
you was honest to say
to
to them that you weren't ready.
Some of them, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm thinking from my point of view, for the phrases that you're using, because I'm just calling it out, right? For some of the phrases that are being used, balls deep, all these phrases that could be seen to be quite, to some extent, misogynistic. No, I mean, I'm being real.
But misogyny it describes a hatred of women.
Yeah.
I don't hate women.
Yeah.
I've used them as my toy.
Which a lot of them were willing to be used.
Some were willing
but
to be used.
But
I'm not condoning.
But it doesn't mean that I'm hating on you.
Yeah,
it means
yeah.
I think women use men as much as men use women.
And I also say that a man will get away with what a woman allows them to get away with.
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
of course. Like, you know,
so that's what I'm saying.
It's true. Like,
we allow it to happen. So if I've heard so many stories in the past that women will be saying, he cheated on me, he done this, he done that, but in the beginning he was a cheater. You met him cheating, doing his thing. What made you think he was going to be any different?
Because some women, I think they've got a gold mine vagina.
Yeah,
I agree. Like, we're
so I'm
not
not condoning it, but
and some
at the
women
same
think
time,
having a kid
we have to take responsibility.
He's going to hold on to
we
us.
Have to take
He's going to hold on to us. Men, like, you know what we're like. We're lone wolves.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I hear you. But I find it really, I mean, I'm just looking at this from different angles, looking at it from different angles, because I'm sitting there thinking, I totally hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, And also I'm thinking from another perspective, I can think there's some women thinking like, ooh, like he's being this guy's being real, maybe a bit too real.
Yeah,
to
some people can't handle the way I am.
Some people will think that.
Yeah, but I'm very open and I'm very honest, and I
think good.
To be who I am is to be honest, irrespective if there's a woman here or not. Even if you walk away and think that guy was a bit obnoxiously, he was over the top, at least you can go away and think something on it, because you'll never forget what I said.
But I guess for you though, even in the even in conveying that she may feel, not saying that you do, but there's a feeling that was obnoxious, that was a bit dismissive, that was a bit irresponsible in some of the comments that were thrown away. Is there something for you to take away from that, or to learn from that? Just a question.
I think I've learned a lot from my experiences, and I think what I've learned from my experience is stop trying to be so politically correct.
Okay.
And stop trying to appease to people's emotions. Sometimes you've got to be as brutal as possible for a woman to understand.
Okay.
Sometimes, and I'm not saying the way I am is right, and I'm not saying the way I am works for everybody, but I think in my immediate circle it works, because my friends expect a brutal, honest truth from me. My friends like to give out diabetes in terms of they like to sweeten everything up. I'm just straight to the point. I'm no real grey area. Like, as you see, I've sat here and I've literally told you everything. I'm not saying, maybe it was this. No, I have accountability and I have responsibility. I've hurt people. I've got guilt. There's guilt that I probably will never get rid of. And it's... Would you appreciate this candid, focus, open transparency if your son was a girl? If this was your daughter and there was and a guy, just throwing it out there, right? This was a guy that you knew that was about to kind of get with your daughter and was going to date her or something. Would that be... Yes. Would you still hold on to... Yeah. I'd rather be honest. And I think... I've always said to myself, if I have a daughter, and the guy comes down, I'll be like, big man, I already know you're not here for the long term. Unless you love her that much. You have to love her that much. I'm like, listen, in the short term, forever, how long you want it to last and how long you're going to love her, be open and be honest with her. Because what else? I can't control my daughter. That's more misogynistic than anything else. How can I control, how can I control my daughter from doing what she's doing? I'm not going to say that I might not. I probably will, because I know what men are like. Do you know what I mean? But no, I'd want him to be open and honest with me. Do you know what I mean? And I think, as a man, I don't know, a lot of other men in this room, when you're a virgin, you think you're going to be with this woman for the rest of your life. I thought I was going to be with this girl for the rest of my life. And then you realise, hold up, I got something. You're left with an eternal, everlasting hunger, and that's sex. And you're like, these women will throw it at me. Well, a lot of women are more likely, they want it in a secure space. With men, we just like to have cheap thrills. Have fun. And it's like, it's not beneficial, but I think men, we deal with it in a completely different way. That doesn't necessarily help. It doesn't help us because, we lock our emotions away. I'm not saying that men are exactly the same emotionally as women are. But I think speaking about myself, I'm probably a bit more feminine than I am masculine. I'm a soft guy.
And what does that mean for you?
When I say feminine,
you say you're soft, and what does
When I say feminine, I'm more of a lover, man. You know, my love languages are physical affection and acts of service, and that's because I grew up seeing my mum like that. You know, I think subconsciously, because the way I've been raised, I've seen the way my mum is, and I want a woman just like my mum. You know, a bit stuck up. A woman that's not giving it out for anyone. That kind of woman. And that's good for her generation. Our generation's not like that. So I say there's another friend that we laugh about, and we call him the hopeless romantic.
Okay.
We say that if he was Thanos, he has the loveless stone.
And they love it.
Because he has all this love to give, but women don't want it in our generation. When I'm telling you, this guy could, if you had a daughter, you would want someone to take care of him. You'd want him to take care of your daughter. That kind of guy.
Okay. Just to kind of move it on, I'm just thinking, current situation, serious youth violence on our streets. We're hearing that there's potentially an epidemic, you know, with knife crime, acid attacks, all this stuff that's happening. What's going on? What would you make of all of this?
Well, London, we're not as bad as Glasgow. I think Glasgow has one of the highest rates of crime, youth crime. I think I wrote a post on Facebook saying that fathers need to be given more time with their sons.
Okay.
I think some women will not accept when you have a boy, he is more so his father than he is you. We know the struggles of a young boy. We could resonate more. I think fathers need to be there more for their sons. We need to have open and honest conversations. We need to grow together more so than anything else. And I think even if our fathers are not there, we need to have good, positive role models like Manhood Academy is a great example. 100 Black Men of London. We need it. We need people who are culturally intelligent enough to understand what a young black boy needs. And you know, and I think a great issue of mine is when a white woman has a kid, she doesn't understand the responsibility she has raising a mixed race kid. Because automatically in some spaces he's black and in some spaces
and that's you speaking to your own direct personal experience.
Well, I'm not mixed race. Everyone thinks I am. So, you know, everyone thinks I am. So sometimes I run with it. Sometimes I'm like, you know, I might as well be. You know, and
interesting.
As I said, my son's really light-skinned. And, you know, people have said, oh, is his mother white? I'm like, no. And I could only imagine his experience of the world because he goes to a private nursery. And again, I didn't agree with that because she didn't have the conversation. But I have no issue with it. It's just expensive.
It's just
And everyone in the nursery, all the kids are white, all of them. There's no kid that's black. All the workers are black, and some of them are white. And you know, I look around, and you know, the first thing I see them do is they rub his hair, and I'm a bit like, it irks my spirit. I'm a bit like, you wouldn't do that to another kid. But you know, that's off topic again. But I think as I said, the knife crime. Charity begins at home, but furthermore, these young boys need to be punished. We need to stop playing the victim with them. They're making choices to come out of their homes and carry knives. But I understand the fear element. I grew up in a time where if you were from Tooting but you went to Battersea, you had to lie about what road you were from. Because guys would stab you. And you know,
it's so stupid.
This is real in a sense that it's not. You say of course it is, but I do feel I have to say in terms of this whole gang discourse and this description, I do feel what does get pushed very much so is when we look at gangs, it's often a lot of black faces that you see on the screens.
It's a surrogate
when they
family,
look at news but I mean even in how it's portrayed in terms of the media and how it's relayed.
Like we know the media like goes over the top of it.
Do you know what I mean? It becomes sensationalized and whatever. It's seen to be kind of like a black issue or a black problem sometimes is what I've seen. Do you know what I mean? When I think it's far more complex. Do you know what I mean? And we know that sometimes people describe gangs being used as a tool, as a way to group young people.
Well, it is,
in way to. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I think there's a lot of different opinions on that. But that's why I wanted to find out, like from Shaun, what his views are on that.
I think when you look at the facts, black boys do commit more crimes on other black boys than anyone else. And that hurts liberals' hearts. That it's not a made-up fact. It's sadly truthful. I rarely see black boys impact on a white... I mean, go and do the same thing they do to another black boy to a white boy. It's because we have competition in our community and we have people trying to get rid of one another For what reason? It's a lot of it is, it's slavery. A lot of it is materialism. When you look at drill artists, you know, as I said, there's nothing positive about drill. There's not one thing I can tell you that's positive.
Yeah.
Some people would say art is just literally freedom, but when are we going to stop the freedom that... I don't think drill can be linked to violence. I think there's plausible links in some aspects. But when you think about... So I remember someone put up a post saying when Theresa May or David Cameron bombed, I think it was Syria, what music did he play? Was their music linked? I think, I thought that was funny. I've sat down and I've listened to drill.
You may have been listening to drill still.
Fun
No, I don't listen to it. Like, I don't actually enjoy drill. But when I listen to the lyrics, you know, Dr. Umar Johnson said that the brain is a creature of volume and repetition. Imagine I listen to it all day. I listen to it all day. I think about my op, my op, skeng, dip man in the fort. Like, you know, all those lyrics. Like, what do you expect some young boys to go out there and think is acceptable to do eventually? Whereas if you grew up on like a bit of Bob Marley, a bit of reggae, my friend who grew up on all lovers rock, the kid, all he wants to do is love. He doesn't want to listen to anything else.
But do we have, I mean, I get you talking about having responsibility at home and having that in the house and that starting there, and fathers and absent dads and dads having more time with their children and all that as well. But what about, like, kind of, what role does kind of wider society play in this? What role do they have in terms of this? So I get the home angle and all of that, but are there other stakeholders in this
like,
that can impact and can have a part to play?
I think there's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you sow, you think of someone, so they shall become eventually. There's a labeling theory. You look at someone, you automatically think you're a criminal. You might as well be one if they're going to think about you in that way. You know, wider society has a massive... The infrastructure is not built to better the black experience, and it's not better... It's not built to advance for us to do better until we divorce the concept of our reality that is being black. Almost to succeed in this world, you almost have to forget your skin color unless it's in diversity and tick box and positive action schemes. And apart from that, so I think when I look at wider society and when I've gone into schools and I've taught in schools, the first thing the kids are like, "We're so happy to see you, sir," and it's 3 black boys coming into school talking. The first thing that they say, and white kids, we treat them all the same. You know, we laugh, we bust jokes. You know, we treat them all the same. But wider society, we need people who are culturally, again, more competent, more intelligent. We need. So some people would say we need black teachers. You know, and I think it's fantastic to have quotas, but quotas don't always mean these teachers are better. For these young black boys. And I grew up when I had my teacher, you know, shout outs to Mr. Bonte. He told me I was going to fail. And I remember when I was done the course, I threw everything on his table and said, "Here, A star, give me that. Give me my credit." And he said, "Wow, I didn't expect you to make it." He could have been pushing me for all the right reasons. Or he could have just been thinking you're going to be another statistic, you're going to go out and do nonsense. And
but that's the same thing, because it's the same argument that I have for a lot of the, you know, you have a lot of these, when we look at the CSU violence and all these gang experts, that often are people that have...
They're so divorced from the culture.
They're all these gang experts who have reformed themselves from having gone to prison.
Oh, the ones that are reformed, I'm thinking about, like... People who are so divorced from the culture, but have so much to say in it.
No.
But people people think that's me because of how I sound. Literally because of how I sound. Until I talk with these kids, and I'm like, we probably have more in common than you think. I ain't got no daddy.
But how do you? But in terms of navigating that space, because you talk about, and you say this a lot in your blogs as well that I've seen. You've spoken about occupying the spaces of being a black man who is seen to be intelligent, who's articulate, that can speak, and almost rejected by your own.
Always normal. It's normal.
That's you speak of, and
it's so funny because in the journalism course, you know, I was saying to these black women, you know, they said, "We only thought you dated white women," you know, and I'm like, "Why?" They said, "Oh, because of how you sound, how you carry yourself." I said, "I'm interested in black women." It tells you how there's a banana split in our own community. It's just one of the funniest things. It's so funny that when I talk to some black people and they realize I'm very pro-black. Or again, they assume I'm mixed race. Dominican is another new one. I get a lot. South American, or they assume that I only want to be with white women.
And I've heard the same as well. That's what's been said. I've heard that a lot.
It's like we think of blackness in a monolithic prison. There's only one way to be black. There's only one way, and that one way to be black is to agree with liberal ideologies. You can't be conservative. The only other way is you also have to be interested in carnival. If you're not interested in carnival, you know, you're a waste man, you're this and you're that. We think about blackness in such a container. And blackness is so expansive. Do you know what I mean? You know, we have dreadlocks, we've got guys who are interested in classical music. Of course, man. And we alienate our own community by saying you sound... Racial epithets are the worst thing. And I was guilty of that. And I think there's William Cross, I don't know if you heard of him. He creates the immersion theory. And he talks about blackness happens in stages. There's the one where you reject white society, and there's the one where you only want to be pro-black, and then there's the one where you accept everything, and then there's another thing where you just literally, you live in the society and you try to do better by black people. And I think that's what happens all the time. Calling someone a coon, and it just doesn't do anything. Like what do you think it's going to do? Like, it doesn't make sense.
It's true.
But we can't keep thinking of blackness in such a container.
There's a lot of grey. There's a lot of complexity. There's a lot of nuances. There's a lot to consider. And man, I'm thinking about the time where.
Go ahead, man. You can ask me as much as you want.
But you know what? Like, it's been emotional.
Need a part 2, mate.
Do you know what I mean? I think this has been emotional, to be honest with you. And I feel just, man. Thank you for your time, bro. It's always good for you to pass through. Do you know, mate, we need to have you on again.
Definitely.
We need to bring you back down,
part
man.
2.
Because you've opened up. The thing is, I think
there's so much
that you've gone into to unwrap that I think we can just get into. It'd be great to have you back in the studio.
Man, I've got too much to talk about.
Of course, man. You can never have too much. Man.
It's basically my therapy. This is my therapy, man.
I hear that, man. Therapy's good for the soul, man. So look, man, thank you for passing through the studio. Yeah, man.
Last bit of advice I'll give to a lot of black people. Stop warring with each other, man. Jesus Christ. It's easier said than done, but bloody hell, stop the war, man.
Stop warring.
Yeah, it's just dead. Stop it. Like, the only way we can come together is by realizing there's one thing that unites us all. And that's our skin color. Even if it's in different shades.
Cool, man. And stop the porn. Stop the porn.
Stop the porn, stop the masturbation. And women, stop trying to change men. We don't change for no one but our damn selves.
Who they are, right? I agree.
Cool.
Celibacy is the way forward.
Cool. Nice. Is that good, yeah? Is that cool?